We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Aleph Amud Aleph and Mesechet Kesubos. This is Kesubos Daf 61a. The Gemara continues, Barye, if somebody eats, a woman eats when she's pregnant, meat, and she drinks wine, so then she'll have children that are healthy. Rashi says Barye means Bariim, they're healthy. And the Gemara continues, Da'achla Bey, let's say she eats eggs when she's pregnant, Havela B'nei Einane, then she's going to have children. Rashi says Einane Eineim Gedolos, they're going to have large eyes. Da'achla Kavari, if she eats fish when she's pregnant, Havela B'nei Chinane, she's going to have children who have grace, they're graceful. Diachla Karpasa, one who eats celery when she's pregnant, Havela B'nei Zivsani, she's going to have children that are beautiful. Diachla Kuzbarta, if she eats coriander, Havela B'nei Bisrani, she's going to have larger children. Diachla Esroga, if she eats Esrog, Havela B'nei Rechani, she's going to have sweet-smelling children. And the Gemara says along these lines, Barate Deshvor Malka, the daughter of King Shapur, Achla Ba'ima Esroga, her mother ate Esrog, V'havamaskula L'kamei Avua B'reish Rechani, and they used to put her in front of her father, on top of all the sweet-smelling spices, because she too had a pleasant smell. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Huna says, Bodak lon Rav Huna bar Chinana, he tested us with the following question. He omeres lahanik, if she says she wants to nurse, v'hu omer shalo lahanik, and he says he doesn't want her to nurse, he wants to hire a nurse, so shomin law. So in that case, we listen to her, tzare didahu, because it's her pain. If she doesn't nurse, she will be in pain, and therefore we listen to her. And the Gemara continues, Hu omer lahanik v'hi omer shalo lahanik. Now what happens if he says that he wants her to nurse, and she says she does not want to nurse? Mahu, what's the halacha in that case? And the Gemara explains the question. In any situation where it's not normal, it's not the normal custom of her family to nurse, so shomin la, then we definitely listen to her in such a situation if she's the one saying she doesn't want to nurse. But the question is as follows. He orcha v'hu lav orche. Let's say it's in her family it's normal to nurse, but in his family it's actually normal to hire someone. It's not normal. And now he's the one saying that she should nurse against the way his family does it. So what's the halacha? What's the halacha? Basar didei azlina, do we follow him? Or basar didei azlina, do we follow her? And the Gemara continues, Upashitno le meha, so I answered him from the following. We know the principle, Ola imo ve'ena yoredes imo. She goes higher with him, meaning to say if she marries into a higher status, she rises to his status, but she doesn't go down. Let's say he's of a lower status than her. And so we can use that to answer this question as well. If she doesn't want to nurse and it's his family custom not to nurse, so then we can say, Ola imo ve'ena yoredes imo. Therefore we would listen to her, and she does not have to nurse. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Huna says, my crow, where do we see this in the pasuk that she goes up with him but she doesn't go down with him? The pasuk says vihi bu'ulas baal, and we darsh in the pasuk as follows: Ba'aliyaso shel baal v'lo b'yiridaso shel baal. She goes up with the husband but she doesn't go down with the husband. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Elazar says it's from here, from the following pasuk, ki hi hoisa im kol chai. It says she was the mother of all living things, and the drasha is l'chayim nitna v'lo l'tzar nitna. It was given for life and not for pain. And the idea being that she's given this husband for her life, for positive things and not for pain, and that's why again we listen to her in this situation. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Hichnisa lo shifcha v'chulu. It says, let's say she brings a shifcha into the marriage, so even though she brought a shifcha into the marriage, the shifcha does some of the work, but still some of the tasks are still upon the wife. And so the Gemara says, Hasharavd, it sounds like she does the rest of the tasks. Why can't she say, I brought in a woman to do everything for me? All the work that I was supposed to do, she's going to do, and I should not have to do anything. And the Gemara answers, Misham Damar La, the reason is because the husband can say to her, this maidservant is working for me and is working for herself. But what about for you to provide for your needs? We need someone to do that work, and therefore you still need to do work as well. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, let's say she brings in two maidservants, so she doesn't have to cook, she doesn't have to nurse. And again the Gemara says, apparently she has to do the rest of the work. Why doesn't she say as follows? I brought in now another woman, the Tarcha Ladida, she'll take care of me and her, and therefore I don't have to do anything. And the other woman, the first woman, she's going to work for you and for herself. And the Gemara says, Misham Damar La, no, the husband can say to her, Kame Orche, but what about in front of the guests? Uparche, and the travelers, Man Tarach, who's going to do that work, and therefore she still needs to do some work. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, Shalosh Eina Matzas Hamita. Again, it says if she brings in three maidservants, she doesn't have to make the bed. Again, the Gemara says Hashara Avda. It sounds like she does the rest of the work. Why is that the case? V'tei Malay, why can't she say to him, I brought in another maidservant for the guests and for the people who come in who are traveling. And the Gemara says, no, Misham Damar La, because he says to her, Nafish b'nei beisa, Nafish orchi uparchi. If you have more people in the household, you're going to have even more guests and even more people who are traveling by. And the Gemara says, if so, afilu arba nami. So even if there's 4 maidservants also, we should say that she should still continue to work because there's going to be even more people in the house. And to that the Gemara says, arba, when you have already 4 maidservants, kevan de nefishi luhu mesayin adodi, since there's so many of them, they end up supporting each other. At that point, the wife does not have to work. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chana says, V'temer Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni. Some people say it's Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni who says, Lo echnisa lo mamish. It doesn't mean she actually brings in these maidservants. Elakevan sheru'uya lahachnas. As long as she brings in enough of a dowry to acquire these maidservants, afal pisha lo echnis, even though she didn't actually bring them into the marriage, that would be sufficient. And the Gemara says along the same lines, Tana was taught, Echot she'echnisa lo, whether she brings in the maidservants, ve'echot she'tzimtzum lo mishalo, or even let's say she takes upon herself that she's not going to need as much. She says that she's not going to need as much spent on her behalf, and now there will be enough money to get maidservants. That also would be the same thing. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Arba, if she brings in 4 maidservants, Yosheves bekatadra, she can sit in her chair. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Chananya, Amar Rav Huna, Rav Yitzchak bar Chananya says, that Rav Huna says, Afa bisha Amar Yosheves bekatadra, even though they say that she can sit in her chair, Aval mozegas lokos, but still, she should pour the cup for her husband, umatzas lo esamita, and she should spread the bed for her husband, umarchetzes lo panav yodav varaglav, and she should wash his face and his hands and his feet. And Rashi over here says, Aval mozegas lokos umatzas lo mita lifro sadin ulavadin davar sheno torech. We're talking about making the bed in a way that is not a burden. Umisham demili dechibanin, and we're just talking about these things, they create affection, kadesha tischabe v'olav, in order that she should be beloved to him. V'lo dami lematzas demasnisin. This is not what matzas means in the Mishnah when it talks about making the bed. To have a davar shel torech. That's talking about making the bed in the sense that it is a difficult, a burdensome thing, or the difficult part of making the bed. That she does not have to do. And Rashi continues, uvechvia hani lo chafila. Now these things we're not forcing her to do. Elachacham hisu eitz tova. This is just good advice the chacham are giving. Lahanik zos b'Yisrael. This should be done. In other words, even though she's brought in enough maidservants not to have to work, she should do certain things for her husband to increase the affection in the marriage. And the Gemara continues along the same lines. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Chananya, Amar Rav Huna. Rav Yitzchak bar Chananya says that Rav Huna says, Kol malachos she'isha osa lebala, all work that a wife does for her husband, nida osa lebala, nida can also do for her husband, chutz mimizigas hakos v'atzo asamita, v'archotzas panav yodav v'raglav, except for pouring the cup, making the bed, and washing his face, hands, and feet. Again, these are things that create affection, and therefore the nida should not do it for her husband. And the Gemara says, v'atzo asamita, when it comes to making the bed, Amar Rava says, lo amran el b'fanav, that's only a problem in front of him. Aval shelo b'fanav les lanba, but if it's not in front of him, it's not a problem. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. Umazigas hakos. Again, it said by a nida she shouldn't pour the cup for him. Shmuel mechalfalei devisu biyada desmala. The Gemara says Shmuel, his wife, would pour with her left hand. That would be like a shinoi, a recognition that she's a nida. Abaya manchale apuma dekuva. Abaya, his wife, would put it on the top of a barrel. Rava beisadya. Rava's wife would put it on the pillow. Rav Papa ashar shifa. Rav Papa's wife would put it on the bench. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Chananya, Amar Rav Huna. Rav Yitzchak bar Chananya says that Rav Huna says, Hakol mashin b'fnei hashamish chutz mi basar v'yayin. We're allowed to hold everything back from the servant, tell him he can't eat that food except for meat and wine. That you can't hold away from him. That would be too difficult. Amar Rav Chisda says, basar shamin v'yayin yashin. We're talking specifically about fatty meat and old wine. Again, those things the aroma is very pleasant. It would be difficult to tell the shamish he's not allowed to partake. Amar Rava says, basar shamin kol hashana kula. When it's fatty meat all year round, you don't withhold it from the shamish. But yayin yoshin, when it comes to old wine, betkufas tammuz, we're talking specifically in the season of tammuz, in the hot months. At that time, the smell of the wine is strong, and therefore, again, we do not withhold it from the shamish. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Anan bar Tachlifa. Rav Anan bar Tachlifa says, Havakoimna kame demar Shmuel. I was standing in front of the master Shmuel. V'aisu lei tavshila da'ardi. And they brought in front of him cooked mushrooms. V'lav the yoiv li, and if they had not given it to me, estachni, I would have been in danger, because again, I smelled it, I needed to taste it. And the Gemara continues along the same lines. Amar Rav Ashi says, Havokimna kamei de Rav Kahana. I was standing in front of Rav Kahana, v'aisu le, and they brought him garglide de lifta, slices of turnip, becholo, and vinegar. V'lav the yoiv li, and had they not given it to me, estachni, I would have been in danger. Rav Papa says, Afilo tamarta de hanunisa. This applies even to a fragrant date. Klola de mil. So the general rule is, kol de islay recha. Anything that has a fragrance, v'islay kiyu. Anything that's sharp. Any of those items, if someone is present, you should give it to them to eat. Otherwise, it could be a danger. And the Gemara continues, Avua barihi, minyamin barihi, avua barihi, and minyamin barihi. Chad safi mikol mina v'mina. One of them would give the waiter every type of food that was being served. V'chad safi michad mina, and the other one only gave from one type of food. The others he would would withhold. And the Gemara comments, Mar Mishtoy Elio Badei, one of them, Elio Hanavi, spoke to him because he was generous with the food to the waiter. Umar Lo Mishtoy Elio Badei, the other one, Elio, would not speak with him. Hanu Tardin Chasidi, there were two Chasidim, two righteous people. V'amri Lo, some say it was Rav Mori v'Rav Pinchas, some say it was Rav Mori and Rav Pinchas, B'nei Rav Chisda, the sons of Rav Chisda. Mar Kodim Safi, Umar Ma'acher Safi. One of them again gave the waiter food right at the beginning of the meal, and the other waited till the end of the meal to give the waiter the food. The Kodim Safi, Elio Mishtoy Badei, the one who gave early, Elio spoke to that one. The Ma'acher Safi, the one who gave later, Lo Mishtoy Elio Badei. Elio won't speak with that one again because he caused pain to the waiter. And the Gemara continues, Amemar Marzutra v'Ravashi have a koyazvi apischa deve azgur malka. Amemar and Marzutra and Ravashi, they were sitting at the entrance of the palace of Asgur. Chalav v'yazel aturna de malka, the butler of the king, he passed by. Chazi Ravashi leMarzutra. Ravashi noticed that Marzutra, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Aleph Amud Beis.